Welcome, it's a great day to be a miner. In today's video, we're going to build a robot. But first, let's spin that intro. Yeah, so today it's time to get down and get dirty, and we're going to make a Bitaxe robot. So first and foremost, this is a Bitaxe Gamma. This is from PWM. This is the 601 Bitaxe Gamma. Not affiliated, not a sponsored video, but if you'd like to, go check them out and check out their products. This one's a pretty good Bitaxe. But since we're going to be upgrading, we're going to make it into a robot. We've decided we're going to go ahead and upgrade the cooler on this thing. We're going to put an Icetower on there. This is the black Icetower. We've previously made a video on how to do the full install on that, and if you want to learn how to do the install, go ahead and check that video up above. It will dramatically decrease your temperatures, allowing you to overclock and of course to get more hash rate and more chances at those sweet blocks. So yeah, what are we building today? This is our robot. This is the design. We didn't create this, so full shout out to the creator of this thing. This was off of Thingiverse. It is free for use, so make sure to check that out. I'll put links for everything down in the description that we're going to use today, and we just fired this up, printed it on our printer, but yeah, it looks really sleek. So what we're going to do is we're going to put our Bitaxe onto this guy, and it's not as simple as just mounting the Bitaxe on here, because we're going to reroute the display so that this display is actually in his actually eye slot right up here at the top, and then on the back it actually has a nice mount for a rear fan as well to blow on the back of the boards, because we know that yes, we can supercool the chip on these things, but even when you supercool the ASIC chip, the power delivery will be what then bottlenecks you on your overclocking. So if you put heat sinks and you put an additional fan on the back, that allows your power delivery to stay cool. And if you put adequate cooler on the main chip, you could cool everything, and that means you can overclock the whole thing way up higher, and that's what we're planning to do. So yeah, so let's go over our parts list. First and foremost, you need a 3D printed one of these guys. I'm not sure if these are for sale anywhere, but I just grabbed the file, printed it up. It printed pretty decently. My printer is not a high dollar one. It's just an Ender V3 Neo, I believe, or something like that. But it came out pretty good. The one complaint I do have is that the arms don't move. We should have made those like articulated or something, but still really cool design. Pretty stable for the most part. We'll see how it is. I think when you add the cooler on the front, with the bigger cooler, it'll actually make it more front heavy up top so that the long feet will make it nice and sturdy. So yeah, there is our 3D printed shell. This is our Bitaxe Gamma 601. It is from PWM, and you can see it just has the stock little aluminum heat sink on there with the stock fan. This is a really nice sled type design that they sell right here, and you can even clip your cable in there so it routes nicely out the back. But we're gonna pull that off of there. Before we actually slap it in, we're gonna go ahead and upgrade to our Icetower. And really important pro tip on this guy. So this is your Icetower. It's for a Raspberry Pi. We'll make sure again to link it down in the description. But this black model has paint over the plate, over the cold plate. So what we did, we took and we put this on before. We actually used this on the initial stall in another video, and it just didn't cool like we thought it would. It was actually having it overheat at times. So what we had to do was we took it back off and we sanded the cold plate with a heavier grit sandpaper, maybe like a 500, and then we came back with a 1500 and really sanded it nice and smooth so there's not a lot of pitting in there, because that'll go right against your ASIC chip. But yeah, this will now allow that heat transfer to happen like it should. Before, the black paint over it, man, it just didn't let the heat transfer like it should. So there's the cooler we're gonna use. Now, how are you gonna mount this cooler onto this guy? So you have to have a bracket, right? If you bought a CPU cooler, it comes with a bracket specific to your type of motherboard that lines up with the holes. Well, this is made for Raspberry Pi, so those brackets aren't gonna line. So we 3D printed a couple different brackets here, And again, these are free files to print, to grab off of Thingiverse or Printables or a lot of different other places. But there's two different designs I have here. This one was my initial one, and it is a decent design. However, it does not have, it's only 2-corner and no supports on the opposite corners. This one is 2 mounting holes, 1 on each corner, but it also has a little nub on each corner that touches down so that the plate can't rock back and forth. When you tighten these down, you still have play on the corners with this one. So we're not using this one, but we're just showing you for demonstration. This one actually has 4 corners of contact against your board. So this is the one we're going to use. We're going to keep the stock fan off of the front of this. So when building this robot, it's very important. Another pro tip, some of these Bitaxes have dual plugs at the bottom, dual 4-pin, some do not. So in this one, it does have the larger 4-pin and the mini 4-pin fan, PWM fan connector. So this is gonna make it super easy. We'll take this fan off of here and we're gonna hook it onto this cooler. We're gonna use that same mini 4-pin, no rewiring, and plug it right back into the same socket. Then we're gonna run a fan onto the back. So for the fan on the back, we're gonna run on the larger 4-pin PWM connector down here, so that when we boot it up, we'll have 2 fans, one on the front, one on the back, both running PWM, both running off of the included software. So that's gonna be really cool. So then what fan could we use? So we could use the one that came with the Icetower. It's not a PWM, it's a 2-wire. If you want to use that one on the back, that's fine. You could use that. You just screw it right there on the back, have it blowing in like so. Since it's 2-pin, 2 wires, you've got a black and a red, you would hook to the pin that says ground and to the one that says 5V. So there's a 5-volt and a ground, and this would be always on. If there's power to the board, it would be always on full power. So that's option 1, go full power all the time. Option 2, and the much better but more expensive option, is to buy this bad boy here. This is a Noctua. It is an NF-A4x10. This guy will put out way more airflow, more CFM than this guy any day of the week. And since it runs on PWM, it will go based on how hot the software is, how hot the chip is, whether to ramp up or to slow down. So we'll open this guy up like that. And there's our fan. And it is only 10mm thick. So it's the same dimensions as this guy, but it's only half the thickness. This is a 20mm thick on the front. This is a 10mm, and I bet this one will put out more air anyway than the small one. But we'll run it to the back, blowing in like this. We'll run this wire to the front, plug it in on the second wide 4-pin PWM connector, and then that should make that work. But before we do that, we'll have to put some heat sinks underneath and make sure that we can clear everything before we do that. So I think the hardest part about this will be, number 1, making sure that your fan connectors and everything are going to work and you don't have to rewire a fan connector. The number 2 hard part, of course, you have to have a 3D printer and be able to print your own files. And number 4 will be the connector, and this will be the one that'll stop people from doing this cool mod, is to move your screen. To move your screen off of the board, which would be down here, and to move it up there, you're gonna have to have new wiring, new wires to run these 4 pins that are right here, to run them out the back and up to the top, up to his new faceplate. So yeah, we've figured out some solution for that, but we'll get back to that as soon as we get to that part. So I think the first thing that we're gonna do, we're going to take this off of here, and we're going to get the stock cooler off of that. So without further ado, let's time warp and we'll pop that off. Ready, go. Boom, just like that, this thing is fully upgraded. So what did we do to it? First and foremost, we did the Icetower cooler install. If you needed to see that video, check that out above, where we go in depth into all the details of how we install this exact cooler. Next, we took our infrared thermometer and we just power pointed all over the board to find some of the biggest hot spots. And then we put a copper heatsink here. We put an aluminum heatsink underneath because we only have a handful of copper ones left at the moment. We've got some on order. And then on the back, we put a small copper, a smaller copper, probably like a 4x4 millimeter one, and a nice hot spot on the back. And so yeah, that will help to cool the voltage regulator to keep this thing down. Then we spent a little bit of time and we got it overclocked real nice. We were running about between 1.4 and 1.5 under probably around 27 watts at the wall. But then it got a little spicy hot in here yesterday because, man, it's been hot lately. And this won't actually be stationed in here in the studio. It's going to go down into the mining cave where it stays much cooler anyway. So we'll go back to those overclock settings later. But for now, we went back to just default settings with our new setup, since it is just set up in mining. Once we get it all finished, we'll dial it in really nice and really put some overclocking to it now that it'll have the upgraded cooler and the back fan as well. So that's where we stand. We got this thing ready to go. Now, what do we want to do? We want to get it in our robot. We want to get this thing installed. So the next portion is we're going to go on ahead and unhook this guy, and we're going to take it out of the actual case here. Let's move the power supply. Let's get it out of the nice pleb source lean-to type sled. Set that back aside. And if you can probably see the copper heat sinks that we got, and we put them on the hot spots. This is the back of the ASIC chip itself right here, and this up here was getting really toasty, so we put just this little one up there, and then on the front we put one right here in a hot spot and then right here in the hot spot, and that'll help dissipate the heat a little bit and then let us to overclock it and to keep it stable. All right, so the next piece is we can kind of dry fit it, what it's going to look like here, but the big piece is that we need to move this screen. Another piece is that you do need to put these heat sinks on before you put it in here, because once you put it in here, you're not going to be able to really access those heat sinks. And there is quite a bit of clearance, so you can put really nice tall heat sinks. I did not. I just put some standard 4 or 5 millimeter, probably 5 millimeter tall heat sinks in there. So the next piece is the screen. These screens are a little bit fragile, so if you break one, don't panic. They're really cheap. You can buy them on Amazon. I'll put links down in the descriptions for the replacement. But these just are 4-pin, and they just kind of push right in. They're not actually even soldered or anything in there. They just slide right into the board. So we need to relocate that guy up into the top. Well, how are we going to do that? We need to have wire extensions. So a couple different things. They're called DuPont connecting cables, and you got a male to a female. So what I bought was this really, I didn't really realize it was going to be this crazy long set of cables, and then it's got different clips that you can put, ends that you can put on there. And the first thing I did was I went ahead and made myself a custom length. So I took those, I put the ends on, and I cut to make the length that I thought it would be, and that made us a nice little housing. Of course, we hooked the wire, we used a nice shrink tubing, and really did it a nice professional connector. This takes a lot of work. This was probably, you know, an extra half hour of work just to make this little nice dongle nice and pretty like this. The easier way, I started really thinking about this, and then I sourced it, was to buy this guy. This is a breadboard female jumper cable, and of course it's the DuPont again. But what it has is, it's almost like a ribbon style, and then it has individual ends on each one, a male and a female end. So really, we could just take 4 of these off of here, and they're roughly the same length, a little bit shorter than my custom cable, but we could take 4 of these off of here. We can just run the pins into the back of this board, run 4 of these male pins into the back of the board like that, run it up, and then plug those 4 pins into our screen up here in its new housing, and that'll give us our reach. For this video, we're going to go ahead and use the custom connector because, well, we made it and spent all that time. So we're gonna use the custom connector, but I'll make sure to put these down in the description because this is the easy way to go. As long as you make sure that you are connecting the same 4 pins in the same order to your screen, it will function the same way. And don't worry if the colors aren't the same as these nice original colors like they use. It'll work, same difference. So let's go ahead and let's make this happen, right? We're gonna, well, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna go ahead and run those in. We're gonna plug it in and test it. And then we'll put it into its house. So you know what? Let's just plug this in live and see if we can make it work. This shouldn't be very hard to do. We've got our 4 pins and we're gonna go from the back instead of the front, but it should be the same exact thing. These pins aren't straight in a row, so you're gonna have to kind of wiggle them to get them nice and lined up. And they're not straight in a row, that way it puts tension on them and they make connections on the side. If they were all in the same row, that probably wouldn't work too well. So I just plugged them in and now I'm gonna move my screen over here and I'm gonna make sure that the red's on the top, just like it is there. And let's plug it in. It's a little snug to get plugged in, but let's plug it back in to the power supply and make sure that the screen comes on. And right away, there's our screen has fired up, so that's a great sign. We're in business. I'm going to unplug this guy again, and then we're going to put it where it belongs. So yeah, that's pretty easy peasy. My connector works, so I'm pretty pumped about my nice custom design here. But this guy is just gonna kind of go back through and then we're gonna have it, I'll unplug the plug, and then we're gonna have it right here in the front. Will it slide through this? Yeah, it actually will fit and slide through, but it's very tight. So maybe I wanna go through the front. But let's go ahead and time warp. We're gonna put in the display, and then we're gonna put in the 4 screws to hold this board in. So ready, go. Bam, there it is. It's all put together, sort of. We still got one last step to go. But there it is. For now, the screen is just kind of wedged in there a little bit. I might put a dab of hot glue on each side just so that it doesn't pop out at all, because it's really a tight fit, but I still would rather be more comfortable just having a couple of dots on there. For the screws, I used M3 by 5mm long, and they come in this nice little handy dandy kit that is great to have around. These are just little screws, and that went right in, and it's super secure on the board onto the robot. So then there is our cable, just like I said. And here's a little more of a close-up look of these other ones that I would prefer to use or advise to use, because you could literally just rip off 4 of these like that. You could even leave all 4 connected, and then they make their own nice little tie. And it's actually just a slight bit shorter, which should be perfect in length. So there it is. Now let's test it real quick. Just make sure the screen comes back on. And as long as the screen comes back on, then our last step is to add our additional fan right on the back. Right away, boom. The screen is on. There it says Bitaxe, and now we're up and mining. So now, last step, we just want to mount this little guy right here. It's a beastly Noctua, so it's going to put a lot of air on the back of this guy. And then since this board has dual 4-pin headers, this is still running off of the mini 4-pin. This will plug right in with no adapter or anything, right into that other 4-pin, and then it'll fire up and blow that cool air right on the back. So without further ado, let's time warp and make that happen. Ready, go. Bam, just like that, it is fully assembled. So quick tip, before you mount the main board on here, go ahead and mount your fan on the back. And what did I use to mount the fan? I used my handy dandy metric hex screws, nuts, set 1260 pieces. I'll put a link down for this in the description. So these kind of kits are super handy to have, especially for small projects like this. But I used a M3, I believe I used an M3 16 length. and then the M3 nut, and I used, just caddy corner, put one on each corner, and came straight through the back and put the bolts. And then you can see it just barely sticks out on the back. And then the hex bolt itself kind of recesses pretty good in there. And then I routed the cable nicely down and around the back, and then ran it so that there's not a bunch of extra slop, and plugged it into the additional 4-pin PWM connector. So if we did everything right and we plug this thing in, we should get both fans, our display should fire up, and our little robot should be in business. That's a good sign. Our Noctua fan and our cooler fan has fired up. Our little screen fell down. We're gonna have to definitely put a couple dots of like hot glue just on the corners to hold it in there. I don't think it's gonna wedge in very well. So yeah, there's that. And then our cable, our power cable, can route like down through the robot's arm like that. Let's see if it's hashing now. It started hashing right away. So there is our Bitaxe robot. This thing is beautiful. And man, that little Noctua, that thing is spooling up. I can hear it running. I can feel the air coming off of both coolers. This thing should be able to overclock pretty heftily. I'll try to run it at like, I don't know, 1.6 to 1.8 and just see how it can handle it. Of course, we'll have to use a better power supply than the one we're currently using on it, because it's not beefy enough. We'll need to use at least a 10 ampere to get a good power supply to it. But let's do a real close-up look at this thing, and then we're gonna talk. Well, there you have it, man. The Bitaxe robot. Tell us what you think down in the comments below. Do you think this is a waste of time? Or me, personally, I love this kind of stuff. I love that the Bitaxe is so versatile, not just in the overclocking, but the Bitaxe community as a whole has really went down this kind of a path, and they've been really creative and innovative, and the open source of the Bitaxe software. It's fun to be a part of, and it's fun to tinker. So again, tell us your thoughts down below. I think that about wraps it up for today. But make sure to give a shout out to our man that created this design, and we'll pop his name up on the screen. Yeah, we appreciate the nice 3D file, because man, I kind of love this thing. This is my new friend. I think he's going to go back and stay here and hang out in our studio. So yeah, if you're new to mining and you need some help, make sure to join the Misfit Mining Discord. Always plenty of seasoned vets in there willing to help you out. And if you like the video, you know what to do. Smash that like button and subscribe for future content. Thanks for coming along, and enjoy the ride.